Good morning, everyone. This is Andre Retta reporting for the Collector's Corridor. While furniture and home goods may occupy the majority of the antique vintage market, there exists a growing interest in the technological realm. Cameras offer a unique image into the world of modern innovation. Italo Devoto is a camera enthusiast joining us today to share a bit more on this. Italo, thank you for joining us here.
Well, thank you, Andre, for having me. I just put a few of the cameras that I have, starting with the oldest ones that I have, and is this one here. And it's kind of like a box camera, similar to the ones that Kodak did back in the 20s and 30s. This one is from 1930, but it was actually made by a company in Italy, and it was given to me by my grandfather, and it's the first camera I actually had when I was about 10 years old. He gave it to me, and I still have it. It's from the
cool.
1930s, and this is another. This is obviously a film camera, and this is kind of like a microfilm camera that came out somewhere around the 50s to maybe the 70s, and not exactly sure, but it was given to me by my father, and then in here we have another progression on the cameras, film cameras also, and then from the progression from just a box camera to the accordion cameras. Then we went to the 35 millimeter cameras that we're all familiar all through the 70s and the 80s. Through the beginning of the 90s, that is when these cameras start to appear, and it's still a film camera but much more futuristic looking, and it used to use a particular roll that you just drop in, so you wouldn't have to actually load it. And now on the first attempts to make digital cameras, some of them, like this one here, I don't know if you notice, they're very similar to each other, but this one here is actually fully digital. It was made by a company called Yashica, and so it's one of the first attempts. This is circa 1998, and when the first commercial was start appearing. So this is another one for a company called Agfa that doesn't make cameras anymore, but it was very big at the beginning. It's a German company. And this was the first attempt to making a digital camera around 1998, 1999. And then you have collaborations from different companies. Then this one here is a Leica, or a digital camera also, but the form factor also, I don't know if you noticed, they were kind of experimenting as to what was going to happen. And so this is a collaboration between Leica and Fujifilm. And around the year 2000 is when this one came out. Now, from there we go to cameras, and start looking much more like what we know about.
Yeah, so they're the ones that I am familiar with, and I think most people would.
Yes. So this is called an SLR. Okay. And this is single lens reflex. I mean that the largest reflex in there, and it has an up and down shutter. And then this one actually is the same idea, but instead of having film in the back, it had a sensor in the back.
Oh, how
cool.
But
they work in the same principle. And then we went to the mirrorless cameras, and this is one of the tiniest one they ever made, mirrorless camera, that actually you're able to swap their lenses. And then you have the experimentals, and what's kind of like in the mid 2000s, you end up with cameras that look like a cube. And also the sensors were a little bit different, trying to capture all of the light at the same time. And these two cameras are like that, this one and this huge one in here. And then you have another one, experimental camera, kind of like this one. Then what it tried to do was...
with all the little lenses, correct?
Yeah, it took several photos at once, and it put them together. And you're able to refocus and also zoom in and zoom out, but all the photos are taken at once. And then stitched together. And then from there we come to now, where there is film cameras like these ones here are getting like a resurgence. People want to have them again, and
yes, they're in high demand.
Yes,
there's been a renaissance of demand for them, and
also the last things that just showed up last year was cameras like this. Then it's basically a tiny little toy, but it has kind of like a nostalgia type of look to them, like from the 80s. And they are very popular right now, and they take very low resolution, very low quality pictures, but they have a feel to them that people like. And then obviously we went through the period where we have the instant cameras, like, you know, what everybody knows is Polaroid, something like this. And that was big, you know, in the 70s and 80s and beginning of the 90s. And Polaroid, again, has come back again as a different company, but is still making those type of cameras.
Very fascinating indeed, and as you could see, you have such a vast collection representing a vast array of time periods, and you can clearly see in what you convey just the innovations in between periods, like the lenses that are switchable to those ones that are extraordinarily tiny, like this newest one. Such a cute little novelty item that obviously very nostalgic too. How many cameras would you say you've accumulated in total as of now?
I would say digital cameras about maybe I have about 90, and analog cameras maybe about 30 of them.
Very impressive. In Italo, what would you say is the driving force behind your interest, your willingness to continue to collect? Is it their appeal, their convenience, or is it much more than that?
No, I think more for me is I like to capture moments. And then, you know, starting with this little camera here that was the first one, then I was taking pictures for everything, and it uses a film that is no longer made, and it got me interested in cameras and also in being able to just capture a moment. It's completely different than film or video, where you know, you're capturing movement, and a lot of times people don't get to see it again because you need to spend a lot of time to see it. You need to have a setup. While in photos, especially if you print them, it's a much more one-on-one relationship with a piece of paper, because each paper really is, at the end of the day, a full display for whoever is looking at them. Instead of looking at it on a phone or looking at them on a digital frame, I think it's better to have them printed out so you can actually see them. And also, each camera shows you a different way to capture something, because each company and the engineers gave them their idea of how something was supposed to look. In the case of film cameras, each company like Kodak and Fuji and Agfa, they had their film, and their film had a different feel depending what company it came from and what type of emulsion they use on the film. And then now is basically just the science behind how they, you know, transfer the stuff from what is captured by the sensor, and then what comes out on the other end. That is actually done by, you know, people that know how color works, how the sensor reads. But each company has a different view. So something that you capture with this camera might look different than this camera. The saturation, the colors, how everything is rendered.
And I can imagine that's too what feeds their appeal, is that you get these different models that sometimes have their own advances over others. Not to say they compensate for what others lack, but you can, they both have their different strong points, and I don't want to say weaknesses for lack of a better word, but for instance, one may have better resolution while others may be better when it comes to capturing those candid moments.
Yes, well, the speed at which you can take. And but like just like a little thing, like this camera here, that, you know, was what you could get in 1998, around there, have the same resolution than this tiny little one that they are releasing now.
How impressive!
So you know, and the quality is gonna be about the same. You know, from something that this is one of the best things you could expect in 1998 for a consumer, to this little thing here that now we actually kind of like discard and think, oh, it's kind of like a toy. But depending on the time period, what is now obsolete or unwanted was something that you were looking for, and it has a particular way of seeing the world, of capturing a picture.
Very true, and indeed, and I think that is why such items are sought after in general, not just by yourself but by fellow collectors. Is just with this selection here before us, it represents sort of a trail in history of progression, how each models have clearly. You look at something all original like this little box, like style, obviously designed with class, but yet something now to just a teeny little guy over here. I mean, it's quite impressive just how technology has come about, and where we're at now. I mean, these are a perfect example.
Yeah, and also you have to see that, the older the things, the more than they're gonna, disappear, and people are not gonna wanna, give them use anymore. I like to keep them because I think they're a piece of our photographic history, and each of them expresses a different way of viewing the world.
That is so true, and I think that is something across the board, whether you are collecting anything from home decor, glassware, furniture. It's a bit of a time capsule to a period in history, and I think that is where the lure comes in and what attracts so many to continue to try to preserve. Because after all, it is history, and it is worth being permitted a second chance of life, as you've given your entire collection. Italo, I want to thank you for joining us here today and for highlighting your collection and sharing with us your knowledge. Again, this is Andre Retta reporting for the Collector's Corridor. Joining me today is Italo Devoto, showcasing his camera collection. Stay tuned. Thank you, Italo.
Thank you, Andre.